And why what the UK authorities put out on 15th of May 2018 in this notice, 27 days before the crash, was not done by the DGCA and therefore not done presumably by Air India? That's the question. Now we have some guests with us tonight. Senior Captain Saurabh Bhatnagar, current Senior Commander of Air India Express. We also have with us Group Captain Anant Mathur, Test Pilot, former IAF officer. But I would like to go to Shravan Sen first, and we go to Harsha also in a bit. So Shravan, has DGCA told you yet? Have they given you a formal reply to your 12-point, 13-point letter today? What are they saying?
Well, in fact, this afternoon around 12:30 is when we had sent 15 questions. Questions pertaining to the FAA advisory back in 2018 and the UK safety advisory that was issued on 15th May 2025. Interestingly, there was no response that came in. It was around 5:30 this evening when a directive was actually issued referring to the same very 2018 FAA directive. They make no mention of the UK safety advisory. In fact, they have now given their airliners date till about 21st of July by which they have to finish the inspection. And the inspection of what? It is the inspection of the locking feature of the fuel switch control. Let me also share a breaking news now coming in. Arnab, I can confirm that these checks that we are talking about was carried out by one airline this Saturday, and 50% of it was linked to the B787 aircraft. Rest of it, the B77 and the other fleets, their checks are still being carried out. All of this is happening post the probe report that came out. The probe report which makes a mention of the FAA advisory and the fact that Air India did not adhere to it. In fact, the same airline is now carrying out the safety checks starting from this Saturday. We do not know, as far as the other airliners are concerned, whether they are carrying out any safety checks or not. That is not known at this point in time. But this is what is happening right now. There was an attempt that was made to basically push the blame on the pilots, but this makes it very clear that the locking feature requires some amount of inspection. And in fact, the advisory also goes on to say that if needed, go on with a change or a replacement.
So Shravan, bottom line is that till, over the weekend, there was this attempt to somehow say that you cannot blame anyone but the pilots. They didn't openly say the pilots were to blame, but now they're in a mess. Has DGCA responded to you? You sent various questions to the DGCA. Has DGCA responded to you?
There's no official response from their side, but this directive is only after the 15 questions that we had set.
So basically DGCA realized we had exposed them.
I'm picking up
DGCA realized we had exposed them. We would go ahead with the story. We would expose how they had not acted for 8 years. So they suddenly acted at 5:30. Have they explained why they did not act so far?
There is absolutely no explanation. There is no explanation why they are waking up after 8 years. What I can confirm is the fact that there were multiple meetings that took place at the DGCA office today, and finally this directive has now been made public. But so far, I've also checked with certain airliners. They've said that they had not received any sort of advisory. In fact, the airlines also need to answer, because if you see, Etihad has already carried out the checks without any sort of an advisory that was given to them. So what stops the airlines here in India to carry out their checks on their own? Suo moto, they could have done that. I've checked with multiple other airlines, international airlines. Etihad has already put this out. Etihad is saying that they are carrying out checks as far as the fuel control switch locking mechanism is concerned. If Etihad could have, then why is it that the Indian airlines could not?
So, but more or less, I mean, everybody till now, viewers, I don't want to insinuate anything, but the MPs were very happy to give Air India a clean sheet, DGCA a clean sheet, Boeing a clean sheet. They were so happy to do that. I'll tell you something, Shravan, inside that meeting of the MPs, they kept praising what a wonderful report. We've never seen a report like this. We should be proud that AIB has done a report. Basically, there were one or two MPs particularly leading from the front and giving everybody a clean sheet, right? And Boeing would have been very happy with the report as well. Air India would be happy with the report. It's basically an attempt to blame a dead pilot who cannot speak for himself. To say the pilot is so inexperienced or suicidal that he decides to cut off the switch. And after that, all kind of conspiracy theories can go on. Was the pilot suicidal? What was the psychological profile of the pilot? Let's get a psychologist in to examine a dead pilot. I mean, how can you do that? This is so unfair on the pilots. How are the pilot community responding, Shravan?
Well, in fact, the Pilot Association have already put out a statement saying that they've carried out this entire investigation with a presumption that the pilots are guilty. And that is the reason why they've sought for a meeting with the DGCA, because they're basically asking for the full transcript of the cockpit voice recording, because here we still do not know whether it was the captain that had basically asked the question as to who cut off, and whether it was the co-pilot. That clarity hasn't really come in. Secondly, if you really look at the timeline, there are multiple questions that are now being asked as to what really happened after the question came in.
But one thing is clear, that the FAA had said, that this plane, the Boeing plane, there are problems with this plane as far as the fuel control switch is concerned. And it had said that if the locking feature is disengaged, the switch can be moved between the two positions without lifting the switch during transition, and the switch would be exposed to the potential of inadvertent action. Inadvertent operation of the switch could result in an unintended consequence, such as an in-flight engine shutdown. Isn't this exactly like what has happened? Because why would a pilot who's facing catastrophe lie about not cutting off the switch? One pilot asked the other, did you cut off the switch? The pilot says, I did not. I did not. Which other way can the switch cut off? If this feature malfunctions in exactly the way the Federal Aviation Administration warned that it can, and to prevent which steps should have been taken by now, but the DGCA for 8 years did not take those steps. The Air India did not take these steps. Neither Air India or DGCA have the decency to come out and say, we did not take the steps. It is wrong to blame the pilot. It could be a technical fault. But on the other hand, this Campbell Wilson comes out and says, there's nothing technical. There's no technical fault. He came out and gave a statement today. What will he say now? He gave a statement today heroically saying, nothing wrong with the engine, nothing wrong technically. What will he say now, Shravan?
Well, in fact, that statement makes absolutely no mention as far as the pilots are concerned. Here, can the CEO deny the fact that the checks were basically carried out after the probe report came in? Can the Air India CEO deny the fact that other international airlines have actually followed the advisory, even if it was not mandatory? Why is it that they cannot confirm this on paper? In fact, there is a questionnaire that we have sent to Air India asking for a detailed response to whether at all they received any directive from DGCA, B, did they take any action based on the FAA advisory, because other airlines, other international airlines have done so, and suo motu they could have done the same. There is no response. What is stopping the airline to come on record to tell us that whether at all they've received the directive, or for that matter, have they actually carried out any checks over the last few years?
Okay, we're going to open up the phone lines tonight, but before that,